Hi guys, we're on part 10 of The Witches by Ronald Dahl. We're on page 94. Next, said the Grand High Witch, you take your boiled telescope and your fried mouse tails and your cooked mice and your roasted alarm clock, and all together you put them into the mixer. Then you mix them at full speed. This will give you a nice thick paste. While the mixer is still mixing, you must add it to the yolk and one Gruntle's egg. A Gruntle's egg, cried the audience. We shall do that. Underneath all the clamor that was going on, I heard one witch in the back row saying to her neighbor, I'm getting a bit old to go bird's nesting. Those ruddy Gruntles always nest very high up. So you mix in the egg. And there's the pictures. The Grand High Witch went on, and one after the other you also mix in the following items. The claw of the crackerburcher, the beak of the blabbersnitch, the snout of the gobblesnurf, and the tongue of the catspringer. I trust you are not having any trouble finding these. None at all, they cried out. We will spear the blabbersnatch and trap the crab cruncher and shoot the gobble squirt and catch the catspringer in his burrow. Excellent, said the Grand High Witch. When you have mixed everything together in the mixer, you will have a most marvelous-looking green liquid. Put one drop, just one teensy droplet of this liquid into a chocolate or a sweet, and at 9 o'clock the next morning the child who ate it will turn into a mouse in 26 seconds. But one word of warning. Never increase the dose. Never. Never put more than one drop into each sweet or chocolate, and never give more than one sweet or chocolate to each child. An overdose of delayed action mouse maker will mess up the timing of the alarm clock and cause the child to turn into a mouse too early. A large overdose might even have an instant effect, and you wouldn't want that, would you? You wouldn't want the children turning into mice right there in your sweet shops. That would give the game away. So be very careful. Do not overdose. Bruno Jenkins disappears. The Grand High Witch was starting to talk again. I'm now going to prove to you, she said, that this recipe is working to perfection. You understand, of course, that you can set the alarm clock to go off at any time you like. It does not have to be 9 o'clock. So yesterday I am personally preparing a small quantity of the magic formula in order to give you a public demonstration. But I am making one small change to the recipe. Before I am roasting the alarm clock, I am setting it to go off at 9 o'clock the next morning, but at 3:30 the next afternoon. Which means 3:30 this afternoon, and that, she said, glancing at her wristwatch, is in precisely 7 minutes' time. The audience of witches was listening intently, sensing that something dramatic was about to happen. So what am I doing yesterday with this magic liquid? Asked the Grand High Witch. I will tell you what I was doing. I am putting one droplet of it into a very squishy chocolate bar, and I am giving this bar to a repulsive, smelly little boy who was hanging round the lobby of the hotel. The Grand High Witch paused. The audience remained silent, waiting for her to go on. I watched this repulsive little brute gobbling up the squishy bar of chocolate, and when he had finished, I said to him, Was that good? He said it was. Great. So I said to him, Would you like some more? And he said, Yes. So I said, I will give you 6 more chocolate bars like that if you will meet me in the ballroom of this hotel at 3:25 tomorrow afternoon. 6 bars, cried the greedy little swine. I'll be there. You bet I'll be there. So the stage is set, shouted the Grand High Witch. The proof of the pudding is about to begin. Do not forget that before I am roasting the alarm clock yesterday, I am setting it for 3:30 today. It is now. She glanced again at her watch. It is now exactly 25 minutes past 3, and the nasty little stinker who will be turning into a mouse is 5 minutes. Time should at this very moment be standing outside the doors. And by gum, she was absolutely right. The boy, whoever he might be, was already rattling the door handle and banging on the doors with his fist. Wake! Shrieked the Grand High Witch. Put on your wigs! Put on your gloves! Put on your shoes! There was a great rustle and a bustle of putting on wigs and gloves and shoes, and I saw the Grand High Witch herself reach for her face mask and put it on over that revolting face of hers. It was astonishing how that mask transformed her. All of a sudden she became once again a rather pretty young lady. "Let me in!" came the boy's voice from behind the doors. "Where are those chocolate bars you promised me? I'm here to collect. Dish them out." "He is not only smelly, he is also greedy," said the Grand High Witch. "Remove the chains from the doors and let him come in." The extraordinary thing about the mask was that its lips moved quite naturally when she spoke. You really couldn't see it was a mask at all. One of the witches leapt to her feet and unfastened the chains. She opened the 2 huge doors. Then I heard her saying, "Why, hello, little man. How lovely to see you. You have come for your chocolate bars, have you not? They are ready for you. Do come in." A small boy wearing a white t-shirt and gray shorts and gym shoes entered the room. I recognized him at once. He was called Bruno Jenkins, and he was staying at the hotel with his parents. I didn't care for him. He was one of those boys who is always eating something whenever you meet him. Meet him in the hotel lobby, and he is stuffing sponge cake into his mouth. Pass him in the corridor, and he is fishing potato crisps out of a bag by the fistful. Catch sight of him in the hotel garden, and he is wolfing a dairy milk bar, and has 2 more sticking out of his trouser pocket. What's more, Bruno never stopped boasting about how his father made more money than my father, and that they owned 3 cars. But worse than that, yesterday morning I had found him kneeling on the flagstones of the hotel terrace with a magnifying glass in his hand. There was a column of ants marching across one of the flagstones, and Bruno Jenkins was focusing the sun through his magnifying glass and roasting the ants one by one. "I like watching them burn," he said. "That's horrible," I cried. "Stop doing it." "Let's see you stop me," he said. At that point, I had pushed him with all my might, and he had crashed sideways on the flagstones. His magnifying glass had splintered into many pieces, and he had leapt up shrieking, "My father is going to get you for this!" Then he had run off, presumably to find his wealthy dad. That was the last time I had seen Bruno Jenkins until now. I doubted very much that he was about to be turned into a mouse, although I must confess that I was secretly hoping it might happen. Either way, I didn't envy him being up there in front of all those witches. "Darling boy," cried the Grand High Witch from up on the platform, "I have your chocolates all ready for you. Do come up here first and say hello to all these lovely ladies." Her voice was quite different now. It was soft and gentle and absolutely dripping with syrup. Bruno was looking a bit bewildered, but he allowed himself to be led up on the platform where he stood beside the Grand High Witch and said, "Okay, where are my 6 bars of chocolate?" I saw the witch who let him in quietly putting the chain back on the door handles. Bruno didn't notice this. He was too busy asking for his chocolates. "The time is now 1 minute before 3:30, announced the Grand High Witch. "What the heck's going on?" Bruno asked. He was frightened, but he wasn't looking comfortable either. What is this?" he said. "Give me my chocolate." 30 seconds to go," cried the Grand High Witch, gripping Bruno by the arm. Bruno shook himself clear and stared at her. She stared back at him, smiling with the lips of her mask. Every witch in the audience was staring at Bruno. 20 seconds, cried the Grand High Witch. "Give me the chocolates," shouted Bruno, becoming suddenly suspicious. "Give me the chocolate and let me out of here." 15 seconds, cried the Grand High Witch. "Will one of you crazy punks kindly tell me what this is all about?" shouted Bruno. 10 seconds, cried the Grand High Witch. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have ignition! I could have sworn I heard an alarm clock ringing. I saw Bruno jump. He jumped as though someone had stuck a hat pin deep into his bottom, and he yelled, "Ow!" He jumped so high that he landed on a small table up there on the stage, and he started hopping around on the top of his table, waving his arms and yelling his head off. Then suddenly he became silent. His whole body stiffened. "The alarm clock has gone off!" shrieked the Grand High Witch. "The mouse maker is beginning to work!" She started hopping about on the platform and clapping her gloved hands together, and then she shouted out, "This smelly brat, this filthy scum, this horrid little louse will very, very soon become a lovely little mouse." Bruno was getting smaller by the second. I could see him shrinking. Now his clothes seemed to be disappearing, and brown fur was growing all over his body. Suddenly he had a tail, and then he had whiskers. Now he had 4 feet. It was all happening so quickly. It was a matter of seconds only, and all at once he wasn't there. any more. A small brown mouse was running around on the tabletop. "Bravo!" yelled the audience. "Bravo! She's done it! It works! It's fantastic! It's colossal! It's the greatest yet! You are a miracle, O brainy one!" They were all standing up and clapping and cheering, and the Grand High Witch produced a mousetrap from the folds of her dress and started to set it. "Oh, no," I thought. "I don't want to see this. Bruno Jenkins may have been a bit of a stinker, but I'm dashed if I want to watch him having his head chopped off." "Where is he?" snapped the Grand High Witch, searching the platform. "Where has the mouse got to?" She couldn't find him. Clever Bruno must have jumped down off the table and scampered off into some comer, or even down a small hole. Thank heavens for that. "It matters not," shouted the Grand High Witch. "Silence and sit down." So there he is, turning into the mouse. The Ancient Ones. The Grand High Witch stood on the very center of the platform, and those dangerous eyes of hers traveled slowly around the audience of witches who were sitting so meekly around before her. "All those over 70, put up your hands," she barked suddenly. 7 or 8 hands went up in the air. "It comes to me," said the Grand High Witch, "that you ancient ones will not be able to climb high trees in search of Gruntel's eggs." "We won't, your grandness. We are afraid we won't," chanted the ancient ones. "Nor will you be able to catch the crack cruncher who lives high up on the rockety cliffs," the Grand High Witch went on. "I can't exactly see you sprinting after the speedy cat springer either, or diving into deep waters to spear the bladdersnitch, or striding the bleak moors with a gun under your arm to shoot the gobbersniffs. You are too old and feeble for those things." "We are," chanted the ancient ones. "We are. We are." "You ancient ones have served me well over many years," said the Grand High Witch, "and I do not wish to deny you the pleasure of bumping off a few thousand children each just because you have become old and feeble. I have therefore prepared personally with my own hands a limited quantity of delayed action mouse maker, which I will distribute to the ancient ones before you leave the hotel." "Oh, thank you, cried the old witches. "You are far too good to us, your grandness. You are far so kind and thoughtful." "Here is a sample of what I'm giving you," shouted the Grand High Witch. She fished around in her pocket of her dress and brought out a very small bottle. She held it up and shouted, "In this tiny bottle is 500 doses of mouse maker. Is enough to turn 500 children into mice." I could see that the bottle was made of dark blue glass and that it was very small, about the same size as the ones you can buy at the chemist with nose drops in them. "Each of you ancient ones will get 2 of these bottles," she shouted. Thank you, O most generous and thoughtful one," chorused the ancient witches. "Not one drop will be wasted. Each of us will promise to squish and squallop and squiggle 1,000 children." "Our meeting is over," announced the Grand High Witch. "Here is the timetable for the remainder of your stay in this hotel. Right now, we must all go out on the Sunshine Terrace and have tea with that ridiculous manager. Next, at 6 o'clock tonight, those witches who are too old to climb trees after gruntle eggs will report to my room to receive 2 bottles each of mouse maker. My room number is 454. Do not forget it. Then, at 8 o'clock, all of you will assemble in the dining room for supper. We are the lovely ladies of the RSPCC, and they are setting up 2 long tables specially for us. But do not forget to put the cotton plugs up your noses. The dining room will be full of filthy little children, and without the nose plugs, the stink will be unbearable. Apart from that, remember to behave normally at all times. Is everything clear? Any questions?" "I have one question, your grandness," said the voice in the audience. "What happens if one of the chocolates we are giving away in our shops gets eaten by a grown-up?" "That's just too bad for the grown-ups," said the Grand High Witch. "This meeting is over," she shouted. "Out you go!" Okay, hang tight for part 11.